Hello there, and welcome to this first impression of the Natasha Denona My Dream collection. When this collection was released, I debated what products from the collection to purchase, and I decided on the eyeshadow palette and the cheek trio. Now, this is a first impression, so truly until I sat down to film this, I had not even swatched either of these. So in this video, I'm going to start off with the tutorial on my look that I am wearing here, and I'll show you my first time swatching these, kind of tell you my initial impressions as I'm applying. And then if you stay tuned to the end, I will show you full swatches of both of the palettes. I'll show you a couple of comparisons and then finish up with my overall thoughts and impressions of this collection. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and now let's get started with the tutorial. I've already started by applying the MAC 24-Hour Eyeshadow Primer plus a little bit of the soft ochre paint pot over the top just to kind of even out my eyelid there. And now I'm going to go in with one more shade that's not in the palette, and that is this cream matte shade. This is from the Peak palette by Natasha Denona using a Sigma E50. So already, even though I haven't swatched any of the shadows yet, I know there is no brow bone highlight shade for my skin tone. So just going to begin with this. All right. Now, let's get into this palette. I can't even tell you how hard it has been for me not even to put my fingers in these shadows to swatch them. So in looking at this palette, whenever I'm using a brand new palette, I do actually swatch a couple of the shades that I am contemplating using on the back of my hand first, because sometimes the swatch tells you a different story than what you're seeing. And case in point is going to be this one. It's looking really pink on camera, but I know it's like a duo or a trio chrome. So let me swatch a couple of these shadows on the back of my hand here. And when you do that, by the way, you do want to make sure your fingers are really clean. So I like to spritz them with a little bit of rubbing alcohol first. Okay, so I just swatched a couple on the back of my hand. I swatched these two, which are right here. So this is kind of how I like to start in the crease. I think that's the easiest place to start. So I think I'm going to go in with the deeper of the two. It's called Carpe Diem. Since we have that brow bone highlight shade down, we have something to blend into. I'm using the Morphe M504. And well, that's really pretty. So I would say this is a kind of dusty coral. So it has some pink, it has a little bit of peach tones, but very neutral, subdued, maybe a rosy clay color. I know that's kind of like a hip color right now this season. I would say that's a pretty good description. And I might go in with the lighter shade, this one called Unity, just right above that. Let's see. Yeah, that provides a nice little gradation of color there. So those two shades are very tonal, so they mix well together. Okay, so I just swatched a few more, and this is definitely too bright. I think for this look today, I'm wanting to go a little more neutral, and then I'm gonna definitely plan to do some more looks with this and go more the colorful route. But I'm gonna go in next with this cooler tone shade, which is called Nurture. This looks like my kind of cool tone taupey color. I don't get along real well with super gray, kind of steely blue grays, but this one has a little bit of some taupey, almost, I hate to say purple tones, but it's warm. It has some warmth to it, but oh, that's really pretty. And mixed with those peach tones, it's building up nicely. Ooh, I really like those two together. And this is the BK Beauty 206 brush. Okay, that worked really well. And now I'm gonna wipe off my brush and go back in with Carpe Diem, just right here where those colors meet, and intensify that corner just a little bit. Oh, that's pretty. That really built up a lot of color from just that shade. So it looks pretty light, but you can build that up. Okay, let's go next to the lid. And as I was swatching this shade right here, oh my goodness. Okay, super buttery smooth and just a really beautiful, kind of almost cool toned, but has a little bit of peach in there. Really pretty. Ooh. I already have an idea of what I want to wear today, and these colors are all going to work well. So some of you ask how I choose which colors. A lot of times it depends on what I'm going to be wearing for the day. So, oh, that is such a pretty color. Ooh, love it. Now I really want to play with these two colors. So this one right here is called Aspiration, and it's a pretty dark cool tone plum. And then the one next to it is Blackest Black, and she said she's never put that in a palette before, and I've actually never tried her Blackest Black, so I'm curious to know how black it is. All right, let's go in first with Aspiration, which is kind of that cool tone plum color. And I'm using this angled brush. This is from Sedona Lace. It's the number 561, and it has just a little bit of some kind of thickness to it, not super thick, but a little bit more than kind of a fine liner brush. And I just kind of want to see, it's pretty, it kind of comes off almost like a dark gray, real deep gray. You don't, I mean, there's just a hint of some purple tones, but not much. Really pretty though. And I'm just going to put this about halfway across the lash line here up top. And then as you saw, I took a little bit under the lower lash line. And then I am going to take a little more of that just real close to the roots of the lashes going towards the inner corner. Which kind of makes the lash line look a little bit thicker. Before I put that brush away, I'm going to wipe it off real well and go back in with the shade Nurture and just use that to softly add a little bit of a shadow here. That is a really nice color. It looks like that's going to be like your most boring shade in the palette, but I actually think that's a really nice tone, easy to work with. All right. Now let's play with this Blackest Black color. I'm going in with a tiny little liner brush. This is the BK Beauty 208. And we're going to go in with the shade. I just want to see the difference in depth between that and this plum. So let's just see if we have a noticeable difference. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm just putting this real close to the lash line. Again, I don't want this black to take over. We'll put a little bit there, right at the outer corner. And this would definitely be a shadow that you could turn into a liquid liner. And I may show that in next video if I do another look with this palette, but yes. Okay, that's a nice, it is a nice black for sure. And then I want to just kind of soften that little line, kind of make it disappear on the outer edge there. So I'm going to go in with a little more, sorry for the glare, a little more of this shade right here, which is Aspiration. I'm using the BK Beauty 204. And I'm just going to lightly flick this, kind of go right on the edge of that line, and then kind of blend it there into the outer corner. I do this often. I just like to soften that line there. And then I'll go in with the BK Beauty 206 and just blend top edge of those shades together. Okay, I'm going to clean up under the eyes and then we'll move on to the cheek palette. All right, I applied some concealer, but no powder yet because we have some more cream products. So this is the Cheek Trio palette, and let's just swatch a little bit here. So this cream blush has, ooh, I mean, it feels like powder. Like it's not Wow, interesting. Like even more powdery than I remember her kind of glam face palette being. But it says it's a cream, so it's, I mean, it almost feels like powder. Okay, and then the center shade, oh, now that feels like a cream. Now that is very nice and buttery. And then the shade, if you saw my vlog, that was shattered the first time I got this palette. Oh my. Okay, so that has a lot more brightness. It looks like it's gonna be pretty deep. I was a little unsure about that color myself. So we're gonna start off, and I apologize, my goodness, got lots of glare here. Okay, I'm gonna start off with the Luxe 522 brush, and I'm going to use this on, okay, it's picking up on the brush. Interesting texture. I honestly don't have another cream blush that feels like that. Pretty. And I have a couple of her cheek quad palettes, and this is a different formulation. At least it feels like it to me. But oh, that's a pretty dusty rose color. And I mean, no troubles whatsoever blending it out. Of course, I feel like using the proper brush helps. So this is kind of a slightly fluffy brush. It's not too dense, so it allows you to kind of slowly build up the color to where you want it to be. And since I know I'm going to powder over the top of this, I'm gonna add probably a little more than you might think I need. We could also try seeing how this works on top of powder, but I just like to put all of my cream products down. That's really nice, very nice and natural. And even though it's a cream blush, I don't really feel like I'm getting a lot of glow from it. Maybe there's a hint. I already have my bronzer on and stuff, so that might be kind of what you're seeing. Okay, let's go next to the cream highlight. I am actually going to apply this. This is the BK Beauty 108 brush. I just kind of want to see, she said she did a raised texture so that it picks up easier on a brush. Let's see. Well, nice. Goes on very smoothly. And I don't see any chunky glitter particles. I didn't expect to, but sometimes you can be surprised, right? All right, let's see what happens. Going with our finger. Obviously with your finger, you're gonna get more intense payoff right there. But if you're topping this with powder, I don't think you need to go too crazy with the cream. All right, I'll put a little bit here on the bridge of the nose and go on the Cupid's bow here. Okay, now for the powder. Okay, I'm gonna go in with this fancy looking brush. This is the Sigma F03, and this is the high cheek highlighter, I believe. It's small, allows us to control how much and where we're placing it, which I feel like I'm gonna need. All right, so I'm just going, ooh, I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but definitely adds a high, kind of a highlight, but wow, wow, it's so smooth looking on the skin. Wow, okay. Yeah, I think you can see that there here. The lights are definitely picking up on that highlight. Wowzers. I definitely would not take this in where I've got my texture, but oddly enough, I don't feel like it's highlighting texture on my skin. I mean, it just looks wet. Whoa, okay, that's a beautiful highlight. Okay, now for inner corner highlight, I'm debating. I might, let's just take a look at this one here. That one's actually pretty brightening. It does have a little bit of kind of a peachy tone, so similar. You can see it's not quite as bright as that highlight shade, but let's put a little bit of that on the inner corner. And this is the shade called Spontaneous. And I saw somebody else pointed this out. Spontaneous is misspelled. Oops. Okay, we'll just move on here. All right. Oh, that's pretty. I wasn't sure that would be bright enough for the inner corner, but it's a beautiful shade. Okay, and I'll take the Sigma E30, a little more of that, and just blend that up and onto the lid. And just for fun, I want to see what would happen if we put a little tiny bit of this just right there in the inner corner. That's nice. It's so nice and smooth. It just really looks nice on the skin. Okay, I'm gonna finish up with the rest of the face and then I'll come back and show you what I'm gonna use for my lips. All right, let's put some lips on here. I did not purchase the lip liner and lipstick with this collection because they're not new shades, just new packaging. So I'm gonna use the I Need a Rose lipstick duo in the shade Kala. And here is the finished look. So overall, I love how everything came together, but let's talk specifics now. First, let's start off with the cheek palette. And what I wanted to do is pull out the Glam Light palette because I mentioned that as I was using this cheek palette, that it reminded me a lot of it. And so I swatched the colors on my hand. So here is the Glam Light palette, the blush and the highlighter. The blush is much more creamy in texture than this My Dream Cheek palette. And the highlighter you can see is pretty full on intense pigment. Now the My Dream Cheek trio, this is the blush. So the blush has a little more cool rosy tones than this one. It's not far off, but I feel like this is lighter and it does take more layering than this one does. And then this is the powder highlight all by itself. And so by itself, it does have some good amount of sheen, but then paired over the top of the cream highlighter, it's pretty close to the same color. So if you already have the light Glam palette, this is the Face and Eye palette, I don't know that you're going to get that much difference in this palette itself, but I did enjoy the textures. I feel like the finished look on the cheeks, I did not have to go back after powdering to add more cheek color. So I'm very pleased with how this performed, but just note that there are some pretty similar colors between those two. And the price on this cheek palette is $48. All right, now let's move on to the eyeshadow palette. So I went ahead and finished swatching all of the colors. I'm gonna put them up on the screen. And as you're looking at those colors, I think on the one hand, you can see a lot of neutral leaning shades, but I feel like she gave us a slightly different twist on those neutrals, other than obviously the black. But I feel like instead of a deep dark brown, we got that dark gray plum. And instead of kind of just your standard caramel color to put in the crease, we have those two kind of nice, almost rosy clay shades. We do have that nice warm brown if you want to switch things up, or that nice cool taupe. So I feel like overall, she gave you some really good neutrals, but with a twist. But I think what's extra special about this palette are these shimmer shades, and in particular this shade, which is called Invention, Thrill, and then this shade, which is Vision. All right, I swatched those on my hand because two of the three shades are considered toppers, but I feel like they have a lot of pigmentation all by themselves, but all three of these shades have a slight little color shift, this one being the most. So this one, I mean, you can see it's peach, but then it does kind of shift into a champagne gold. This one obviously has more of those orangey yellow tones, kind of coppery, but so pretty. And then this one, it's got starting out, I mean, it goes from this bright pink to a beautiful kind of olive shift to almost like a greenish gold. Such an interesting color. So I feel like with those neutrals, she gave you enough different shades to where, at least for me, I feel very inspired by this palette, and I feel like it's not one that I'm going to get bored with anytime soon. Now, as far as the shades in here, two of them, she says, are repeats, which the black one is only sold individually outside this palette. And then there's one other shade, I think it's this one, that may have appeared in one of the larger palettes. I don't have it. All the rest of the shades are new and exclusive to this palette. The back of the palette has the holes. If you're not familiar with this, I think I talked about it when I did the Glam palette review. You can actually pop out these shades and mix and match them between your other palettes if you wish to. So I love and appreciate that aspect of these palettes. But overall, as far as the color scheme, how it compares to the other palettes, the only one that I feel like is similar in tone would be the retro palette. So I wanted to show you those side by side. And really, I feel like it's just maybe kind of these two shades right here that are actually the cream to powder formula, which are pretty amazing. So those, they are cream to powder, so really pigmented and easy to work with. But I feel like those shades, and then maybe just kind of the tone of a couple, like this shade and this, there might be kind of some similarities between those and a couple of the shades in the retro palette. But overall, looking at them side by side, for me personally, I feel like there is enough difference that I would not kind of exchange one over the other. If I'm looking for a specific look, I'm gonna go for the My Dream palette. So this does retail for $69. I know it's pricey. This is definitely one that I would recommend put on your Sephora VIB sale list, which I think that sale should be coming up in October sometime. We never know exactly when. Or you can do what I decided to do, and I had been saving up all of my Sephora points, and I was able to get one of those $100 gift cards in exchange for my points. So for both of these items, I only paid out of pocket $18. So that's what I like to save those points for something special like this that I might not need, but I think I will really enjoy. So overall, I hope that you found this video helpful. As always, I will leave in the description box below links to these palettes and the other things that you saw me apply, my lip combination. I'll also tell you what's on my nails, all that good stuff. And be sure to let me know if you would like to see more looks with this palette, because I'm sure you're going to be seeing these shadows on my eyes in a lot of videos to come. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.